Up with the Los Angeles Times. CBS comedy series Mom just finished its first season. Joining us is the star of the show, Anna Faris. Welcome.
Hi. Hi, thank you so much for having me here.
That's great. Glad you're here. Now, I mean, show's over, first season's ended, so you have a little downtime, right?
Yeah.
Was that kind of a grind, 22 episodes?
It was, there were so many unexpected challenges to doing a multi-cam show and to being on television in general. It's been the best job of my life. I'm always grateful. I'm an actor to be working, but this job has been not only personal but very fulfilling in a lot of ways, and it was it's a chunk of time that I think 10 months, and that the process of getting the script on Monday and performing live on Friday is you almost can't think about it too much. It is a moment to moment process, and but I'm just loving it. I can't believe that I'm here talking with you, but also that we got picked up for a second season, and CBS has been incredible to us. It is nice to have a month or two off.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of came to you in a strange way, like Christmas before last. I don't know if you or your husband opened the front door and there's like an envelope on the doorstep.
Yes, it was. My baby was about 5 months old. I didn't know what I wanted to do sort of at that time in my life. I think any new parent can relate to, especially women, can relate to that sort of career questioning during that time.
Maybe you just wanted to sleep, right?
Yes, yeah, I think. I don't even think I could put together a coherent thought. I barely can now, but my husband, I was reading something else. My husband opened up the door. He saw this manila envelope that was unmarked, pulled out a script, said Mom, written by Chuck Lorre. He starts reading it, and he said, honey, I don't know what you're doing, but you need to stop and read this right now. And I did, and Chuck wanted to meet with me, and a few days later I was in Chuck's office and talking about this incredible script that he had written and been developing for I think a few years. I think they had some different ideas conceptually for it, and I think that they initially, from what I gather, is they wanted my character Christy, who is a recovering alcoholic, to not be sober. Mm-hmm. And they couldn't quite figure out how she would be a single mom and be wasted all the time.
Right.
So I think that they went with the idea that she was recently sober, and I think therefore not only sort of starting her life again, but hopefully a more empathetic mother.
Right.
I want to play wasted all the time, but
Well, yeah, the show walks kind of a fine line on, the subject matter it covers. Yeah, to have her still be,
I keep hoping for a bunch of flashback scenes. Maybe one day we'll get to play in that arena. But it is what I love about the job is that from the moment I get to work, we're on our feet in the sets that have now become familiar and amazing. I grew up in Seattle doing theater work, and this is not dissimilar in a lot of ways, although it is different in the sense that your audience is so forgiving and so grateful to be there, and that
patient.
is patient,
yeah.
Lovely, supportive, which isn't always the case in theater. But I love it that we're just on our feet. We're working the scenes, we're working the blocking, we're working the motivation, working sort of the jokes and delivery, and that challenge is just thrilling, I think.
I still have to go back to the doorstep thing.
Oh, yes.
Do you actually have there been other occasions where people have left like random things on your...
I mean, my cat used to leave dead birds until we put a bell on her neck. But no, that was completely bizarre. Normally, things sort of go through your agent,
Right.
and there's like sort of a discussion and but I think Chuck, he's got his process, and I was really flattered and honored that he thought of me and then hired me, and thrilled that he hired Allison Janney. She's brilliant, and I just love her.
Who plays your mom?
Yes, she plays my mom. She's also a recovering alcoholic who we've had a strained relationship for years, and she suddenly reappears in my life, full of advice and still a mess, and it makes for a really great dynamic, I think. We sort of shift, our characters shift between the mother-daughter, daughter-mother dynamic. Sometimes I'm her mom, and mostly I'm her mom.
Yeah, she's not really a conventional
No.
mom in any sense.
No, you get the sense that those two, Christy and Bonnie, had some wild days behind them. And Allison and I sort of fantasize about what those were.
Again, we need the flashbacks, right?
I know,
Yeah.
I know. I like the idea that we slept with the same person. Maybe on the same night, but I don't know if CBS does.
Well, I mean, CBS seemed, fairly forgiving watching the season. I mean, was there material that was harder to push through sometimes, or?
If there was, I wasn't aware of
Yeah.
it. I was, but I pretty much every, we would get the script for the next week's show over the weekend, and almost very consistently I remember thinking, I can't believe that CBS is going to let us do this. Because not just with some of the raunchier stuff, but also some of our themes that we address. Obviously addiction and what it's like to be a struggling single mom, but one of our beloved characters has breast cancer, and my teenage daughter becomes pregnant during the course of the show. I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe that we were going to go down that road. But I think as an actor, especially for me, spending most of my time in Hollywood doing comedy, that often has been amazing and taught me so much, but I don't get to sort of tap into some of my emotional reservoir.
The Scary Movie series did not allow you.
Believe
those
it or not,
opportunities.
yeah. So that's felt really good to sort of stretch those legs. I remember that I have tear ducts. On the set. Yeah. Off
the set, you probably don't.
I don't.
Right.
I'm too tired.
But yeah, that dynamic was kind of established even in that first episode. The scenes with you and Allison, there were they were funny, but yet these two characters seemed very real too. They didn't kind of take the very broad. There was some broad sitcom jokes, but there was also a real character push and pull dynamic between them.
I love it that we. I love it when my character has love interests on the show, and when Bonnie has love interests on the show. It's exciting and fun, and you get to sort of play a different side of your character. But it is hugely rewarding to not have that be the focus necessarily in the drive of our journey, at least for right now. It's I think that it feels. It just feels, just tapping into some deeper themes that I think everyone can relate to. Mother-daughter relationships are incredibly complicated. Parental-child relationships, especially when I think both of our characters, Bonnie and Christy, are at least, especially Christy, is sort of racked with guilt, feeling the pain of all the mistakes that she's made. And as a parent, especially, and angry at her mom too. Turns out being angry is really fun to
Yeah.
play.
Has
Sort of fun. Yeah.
has this opened up any conversations with your own mom?
You know, there's that. My mom is unbelievable. I have the most amazing parents, and they've always been so supportive and incredible, and they love the show. But there is that funny thing that moms just can't help themselves, that Bonnie sort of does, and my character Christy does to my daughter, which is the sort of the nitpicky stuff, like, oh, you're still biting your nails, or like, oh, so you wanted to wear that today? That's your final choice? Just those little things that parents just can't help themselves, and I think that dynamic, whatever it is really fun. Sort of the being overly critical towards your child and having your child be overly sensitive about that. So
you can kind of catalog those as your mom says
mom
them, and then
yes.
forward them to the writers, and yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I need to, because I think most of us have.
Yeah, it's very universal. Yeah, I love that. I heard you telling a story about your mom, just that she clips out articles in the newspaper just about sort of, and it kind of goes to that nitpicky thing, or just she's making a point, not so subtly, but yeah, my mom used to do that all the time. I get this envelope in the mail and be just full of
hygiene,
health,
health,
just scary things happening in the world that you need to know about, like don't use your clicker to open the car, put the key in the door because there's people in the parking lot that are intercepting the codes, that kind of thing.
Every time we go to a restaurant, every time my mom will say, do you know that the second dirtiest thing in this restaurant is this menu that you're touching right now? And she'll pull out the hand sanitizer, and then she'll say the first dirtiest thing is the lemon slices that come in our iced tea or water, because apparently there's cutting board germs and behind the bar. Yeah.
My mother-in-law makes a huge point of whenever we go out to eat, water but no lemon. She will tell the waiter, waitress, no lemon in the water. And actually I never really understood why. I asked my wife one time, and she didn't really know, but it's the cutting board, huh?
It's the cutting board. Mom, thank you so much for keeping me salmonella free.
Yeah, if nothing else, we've learned two important things for our next meal out, right? But how does she just lets the menu sort of sit on the table?
We pour the hand sanitizer out, and it's mortifying.
Yeah.
But she's got it together, and she's an amazing mom, and she's the best grandma to my baby. So yeah, there's lots of hand sanitizer in her life, though.
It's kind of weird watching the show in the fall and watching Allison on it, and then at the same time she's on Masters of Sex, and just like this totally. Were you watching that show too, or?
She is. Yes, and she's incredible. I love that show, and I love all of her work. And my husband said, you should, in every job, you need to be watching a fellow actor. Pick a fellow actor and watch them and learn from them. And she is that person for me. And she's also a dear friend of mine. And I'm really honored to be working with her. She's got, because she's tall, she's got almost like a kind of like a antelope-ish quality about her. She doesn't seem to have elbows or knees. She's sort of can flow through a room. She's a great dancer, and anyway, her physicality is one of the many amazing things about her ability, and I just couldn't love her more.
And do you think they kind of took that where do you think the relationship ended based on where it began?
I think we're in a much better place. Our characters, Christy and Bonnie, we at the very beginning of the show, we hadn't spoken for a few years. It's unclear what happened, if there was a specific event, or if Christy had just had enough And now, in the course of our first season, she has moved in with me.
Yeah.
She lives on my couch, and we've been reunited with my father, who's played by Kevin Pollak. And Bonnie had always told Christy that her father, she didn't know who her father was, and
That's right.
so that was sort of revealed. And there's been some sparks flying between the two of them, and Kevin is just fantastic. We've been able to get some amazing guest stars, Kevin Pollak and Mimi Kennedy and Octavia Spencer, of course, and Justin Long, and we've been really fortunate in that way, and I hope I get to see all of them again.
And you kind of mentioned the focus staying on that kind of core relationship. I think it was the last episode where your character it's the fireman, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and you kind of think, and he's just this partying fireman, and there's a conflict.
Nick Zano plays this very sexy, charismatic firefighter who sort of appears in Christy's life, and he is still very much in his partying days.
Yeah.
And I think that my character is, she believes that she can sort of handle it all.
Sure.
And I think that
he's a lot to handle.
He's a lot to handle. But yeah, it sure was fun.
I just like the end, and the end of the episode kind of ties into what you're saying, because you're kind of wondering, well, what are they going to do with this character? And he says, well, I've got a problem. And you think, okay, he's going to, and maybe there could be a little something in the future. His problem is that he's just too much in love with you, right?
Yeah, but of course he's he's playing around, and as a young single guy would do. But I think that Christy, it's time for her to make her kids the priority in her life, and so I think that there's that realization that she may have to put aside her love interests and her desires, so she can really be there for her kids. So, and I'm excited to. I hope the writers in Chuck are great at keeping me in the dark. I said one time, hey, so Chuck, can I ask you about next week? And he said, you can ask me anything. I was like, okay, well. But I've realized that if I can sort of, if I can be patient, it's a lot of fun to open the script each weekend to see what they have in mind for us and where we're going. And I hope that Bonnie continues to live with us next season, because that has been just so great. Really. There's such an interesting idea, and I haven't really been able to sort of articulate it very well, but just the idea of sort of the space of in the space and the set design of these multicam shows. I did a few episodes of Friends years ago, and I remember I snuck onto set and I sat on that couch in the coffee shop, and I just, I had goosebumps all over my body. I just couldn't believe that I was sitting in that space. And not that our living room is as iconic as that, but there is a feeling of I love it that I now have a place where I always put my purse. Christy always puts her purse there. She's like, I'm figuring, I love like that unraveling of, or at least maybe the figuring out of the puzzle of the world of the set in the multicam, and that's come as a little bit of a surprise, because with movie sets, they're just not as intimate as this experience, I think.
Christy's apartment, though, is a little bit more realistic than, say, the Friends apartment, which was always like, how
I know.
do they have this place?
That set design was so beautiful, and our set design is fantastic, and Chuck is adamant that we are very reflective of the financial struggle that Christy has, and I love that too. You know, and it we really don't, especially Christy. I don't have anything fancy. We don't have a dishwasher, which means we're constantly drying dishes throughout the whole season.
It gives you something to do, right?
To do.
Yeah. A little business.
A little business. So I love those details, and it's been great to feel committed to one character for a little while, and exploring, getting to know her, and as the writers are getting to know her, and that is a different level of commitment than I've experienced before.
I read a couple of months ago, it was announced you and your husband, Chris Pratt, Parks and Recreation, Guardian of the Galaxy, you were going to make a movie together.
Yes.
Is that still happening?
Yes.
Vacation Friends?
Vacation Friends. And hopefully it's a familiar story for all of us. You go on vacation with your loved one, and you end up meeting a insanely fun, but, you know, potentially insane couple that infiltrates your life. And we're really excited about that. I love the idea of getting to act with him again. And we both sort of started our careers playing sort of similar characters, and we've had a great. And there's so much to learn from playing a character that doesn't have a ton of dimension, and there's so many challenges, and mostly the challenges attempting to not be vain with it. David Zucker from the Scary Movies always had a phrase that he would use, which I think a lot about, which is he would say, "Don't wink at the audience." And I sort of you have to embrace that idea when you're saying something impossibly stupid. and I think that there's a lot of joy and thrill, I think, from the idea of playing a character who may be so awful that you just have to imagine that you're just jumping into the deep end, and you just got to touch the bottom, and you got to be brave in the sense that the world might think you are this person, and maybe that's okay as long as they don't throw eggs at you or something.
So you guys get to be insane together in a movie.
Yes, that is the goal, and we're really excited about it. We talk about it a lot. We've met some crazy people on vacation, and I
was going to ask. I mean, I have not really had that experience.
Oh, you haven't?
No. Where I've gone on vacation and bonded.
We got to go on vacation together.
But you're going to be, I'm not bringing that much crazy to it. So yeah, you've had that experience. You've gone on vacation with, say,
a few times.
Yeah.
And I think because, well, something that I've noticed is that honeymooners, this is my theory,
right?
Because they've spent so much time sort of planning the wedding, and they've just sort of had all this maybe intense family time. After a few days, start to crave company again when they're, alone in their bungalow and wherever. So there's a lot of really friendly honeymooners. I'm implying that some serious weirdness happened. Nothing all that weird happened, but we did meet some characters, and a few of them we've stayed in touch with, and we met a couple that actually came to our wedding years later. We met a couple that seemed headed for divorce, but I love the idea of sort of mining into whatever kind of vulnerability a couple may have when they're suddenly spending all day alone together. there's something kind of interesting to explore there, I think. So we're gonna work on that, and with any luck, we'll be shooting it in the near future.
Yeah, like when though? How are you gonna?
Oh man,
when are you gonna fit that into your
ideally,
schedules?
I would love to shoot for next spring.
Yeah. After second season's over.
Yeah, and Chris is doing Parks and Rec again. So hopefully that
He's finishing that up. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So they start back in August, and but you know, we love to. It is a thrill to play the insane person, and it's so much so that Chris and I talk a lot about the idea of when we're playing somebody that's straight.
Mm-hmm.
How do we have the confidence to believe that we're enough? Is our own personality enough? Or our own instincts? Is it okay to be quiet sometimes, basically? And when you, especially for me, spending years sort of playing these wacky characters, I have to remember that there's validity in all of that as well, and that it's still interesting. I think that it's sometimes you feel like a toddler or something when you're like running around trying to get attention, and suddenly you're playing a straight, normal character, and you think, is this interesting? I don't know. But yeah, but so Chris and I talk a lot about that, and I'm grateful that Christy, with the show, gets to. I get all kinds of beats of varying degrees. Sometimes, you know, I've fallen quite a bit on the show, or
so you have a lot of experience doing it.
Yes. I still not crazy about it, but I do have some experience. And then I also get you know, some darker, more emotional, serious beats, and I love that that Chuck and our writers have been able to give Christy and Bonnie and all the characters on our show so many different flavors and layers, and it's just been an amazing job.
Well, with you, I know you're looking forward to second season, figure out what's going to happen. Me too.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming by today, Anna.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
And for more TV coverage and interviews with people on Emmys, go to latimes.com. Thank you.